Hey y'all, welcome to Redefining a Woman's Worth. I'm your girl Jenna Renee, and this is the series on how I got into relationships with narcissistic and demonized men, and why and how I got out. Amen. And so it's interesting because I never really wanted to do this. I just didn't want to go into this. I guess I sometimes have a hard time doing things that I've seen other people do, because I never want to feel like I'm a copycat. But when God asks you to be obedient, because their audience is their audience, and who may be coming across my videos is my audience. And so it's just because someone else is doing something doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it too, because nobody's going to do it like you. Nobody's story is like yours. And so that's like, you have many fast food restaurants like McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, Five Guys. You just have all these restaurants, and they all sell the same stuff, basically. Burgers, fries, chicken nuggets, chicken tenders, milkshakes, pop. You know what I'm saying? They all sell the same thing, but they have something. It's a different taste at each restaurant, so it caters to a specific customer. So you can have your own niche, right? Or you can have your own voice, or you can have your own it's a word that just was in my mind and it just escaped me. But corner on the market. Come on, Holy Spirit. You got your own corner on the market, simply because your testimony is not going to be the exact same as someone else's, right? Again, I'm sorry, I pulled out my charger, guys. The people that you might touch or need to hear your story are going to be specifically and, cater to what your testimony is. So don't be like me, because that's often why I don't move on things, because sometimes I feel like, Lord, everybody doing that, or Lord, so. But it doesn't matter, because when God asks you to do something, you just need to be obedient, because you don't know who it is that needs to hear it, who could be in a life or death situation, because my last relationship was a life or death situation. And so I just wanted to say that to somebody. Even if you hear my story and listen to my testimonies and you feel like the Lord is telling you to tell yours, sis, do it. Do it. It does not matter. Do it. Do what God tells you to do. Amen. And so I left off in episode 1 about at 2017. So like I said, in between November 2016, when I broke up with toxic ex number 2, toxic ex number 1. So toxic ex number 1, the one in prison, is the one that I broke up with in November of 2016 for good. That was the final breakup. Blew up on that joker and let him have it and said, absolutely not, sir. Okay. In the meantime, a little bit after I broke up with toxic ex number 1, toxic ex number 2 tried to come back, and then, we had a conversation of why he played me so dirty, and back in 2015, and he gave me his answer. And like I said, I was so like not gonna take him serious. So, I entertained him for a minute, and then he was back on the same old trash. He act like he wasn't, like he act like everything was gonna be fine, and then he ended up going right back to his baby mom again. So I'm like, listen, bro, you weird. You know what I'm saying? Y'all have a good time, okay? Y'all have a great time. My feelings weren't hurt because I wasn't invested, because I already had seen, how he was playing his hand. And it got so bad because, like I said, I am still really cool with his family. I mean, his sister was really cool. And so when she got wind of what he was doing and how he kept coming back in and out my life and kept, moving so dirty and so grimy, she ended up confronting him. She ended up confronting him and basically telling him that he better not reach out to me. He better not talk to me no more, or that she was going to get involved and it's going to be a problem. Because he was just he was just being an idiot. Like, bro, you ain't serious. You ain't ready. Stop playing with yourself and leave me alone and go play with do whatever you're going to do. Okay. And so that happened like December of 2016. And then January of 2017, I guess, looking back, the enemy like, oh, she thinks she gonna get away. You know what I'm saying? Because it's clear that the agenda was to get me so destroyed, right? To obliterate whatever self-esteem, whatever value, whatever hope, to get me so entangled in a toxic relationship that I would never recover. And never become who it is that God called me to be. Because we got to understand who our adversary is. It's not these men. These men were being used because they were broken, because they had open doors, because they were available for the enemy to use them. They're not the real enemy. The enemy is the devil. It's Satan. He's the one orchestrating all of these events that are happening, that are destroying, because we know that the thief cometh to kill, steal, and destroy. So anytime something is destroying, is killing, and is stealing, it's the enemy. Now, we will have to be balanced in our thinking, because sometimes God does bring destruction in judgment when we are in sin. We've seen it in the Bible. The children of Israel oftentimes went into, seasons and cycles of, being judged, having the judgment of God because of their sins. And they experienced, destruction. They experienced being overtaken, exiled. They experienced being besieged and, having their stuff being plundered and, being overtaken by their enemies. So it's not to say God does not ever allow us to go through, what looks like destruction, but that's why we have to always want to make sure that we're seeking God for the root or the reason why we're experiencing something. But I know God didn't send these men in my life, okay? God's heart and his thoughts toward us are good. The Bible tells us that the plans he has for us is for a hope in the future and not for destruction. So his plans are not for destruction. If we have to receive judgment from him that involves destruction, it's because of our choices. Amen. It's our choices. And again, the enemy, it cannot force us to do anything, but he will tempt us. And again, he used what was familiar, and he used my weakness to his advantage, because again, men were relationships, and wanting to be in a relationship was my weakness. And so got rid of ex number one, got rid of ex number two, was really ready to just be done with dating at that time. Life started lifing. I was going through a lot. I was going through stuff financially because I had to stop working because of my seizures. I had to resign from my job. And how many of you guys know that when you don't work, your bills don't be like, okay, well, we just pay ourselves, right? Bills don't stop. Responsibilities don't stop. I'm a mother. I have children. All of these things were still, knocking at the door, but I was not able to, meet them. So I'm trying to figure life out, trying to get it, get things situated financially, trying to figure out about a job, whatever the case may be. Dealing with, behavior things with my oldest son at the time, because he was a teenager. And, if anybody has teenagers, how it is being a parent of a teenager, okay? So I was going through that. And it was just, again, I never had healed from all of the other traumatic experiences that I had, the abuses that I had, right? The abandonment, the rejection that I had from childhood. So now I'm compounding trauma, right? I'm compounding trauma. I'm compounding disappointment. I'm compounding rejection. I'm compounding, all the failed expectations, just all of the things, right? Not just in relationships, but just different other experiences and situations in life. So I have, again, I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, something got to change. And maybe the thing is me. So I really wasn't desiring to be in a relationship. I was okay. Like, I was content. I was single. I wasn't talking to nobody. No guy was in the picture. I was just hanging out with my friend. Me and her was like, just kind of like trying to help each other in the process. She was going through what she was going through. I was going through what I was going through. So we were like, we were like being accountability partners and just like really encouraging each other and being there for each other and just trying to, get through life, right? And so everything was all good until this one day. That's why I be so leery about Facebook, y'all, because Facebook a problem, because ex number 2 came because of Facebook and ex number 3 came because of Facebook. Y'all, we gotta stay off Facebook, okay? When they get to sliding in them DMs, you need to rebuke them in the name of Jesus, okay? We had just got back to my house, me and my friend, and she on her phone on Facebook on the couch. I think I'm on another couch. and I'm on my phone on Facebook and I'm scrolling, and you know how it suggests your people you may know. So that came up. So I was scrolling through the people you may know, and I seen a picture and I seen a name, and I said, that looked like my ex. And so this ex, so ex number 3 was also an ex from my past. Excuse me. He was someone that I had dated as a teenager as well. After I had dated ex number 2 as a teenager. So ex number 3, I dated him as a teenager. I was a little older. And we were together, and he was sweet. He was fine. And everything was fine. And I really liked him, but he ended up going to jail. And I'm like, and because even that, like I said in the beginning, I never wanted to be with nobody in jail. I was not interested. And plus, I was so young. I couldn't be nothing for nobody. I was like 16, 17 years old. And what was I going to do for you? Like, what could we do? So he ended up going to jail. And that's just kind of how things ended with us. So we didn't officially end them. It's just a circumstance. The situation happened. And so now it's 18 years later. And I see him on my people you may know. But then a part of me was not completely sure. So I just had vaguely, casually mentioned to my friend, I was like, I think this is my ex. And then I kind of told her a little bit how we dated when we was, you know, in teenagers, blah, 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 blah. And that was that. And she was like, well, why don't you message him and see if it's him? So I'm like, no, for what? Because I'm out of space. Like, I don't need to know. I don't want to know. Like, I think it's him. It looked like him. I'm not sure. It's been 18 years. I'm not sure. But even if it's not him, I don't care. So she like, well, if you don't do it, I'm going to do it because I want to know if it's him. I'm like, no, ma'am, you're not. She's like, yes, I am. So I'm like, listen, I'm not jumping in his DM because that's creepy. I'm not doing that. She was like, okay. So she took it upon herself and she hit him up. And he responded to her. And she told him who she was. So I go and I hide in the bathroom. I did have to use the restroom, but I was really hiding because I was so, like, thinking to myself, like, I know she did not just hit this dude up. So while I'm in the bathroom, he responded. And I'm like, he responded. And she said, he want to know where you at. I said, what? She was like, it's him. And he said, where's you at? He want to talk to you. And I'm like, oh. And that's how it started. It started from Facebook, started from a friend of mine, can't mind her business. And next thing you know, we didn't start talking right away. We just had like a very simple message conversation back and forth via Messenger. And nothing really happened at that time. But eventually, you know, every blue moon, he would, message me on Messenger. And then finally, he ended up asking for my number. He gave me his number, I think. And then from there, we really still wasn't really communicating until one day he asked me to come see him. And that's just kind of where it all started. It went downhill. Because from there, I really wasn't like, I didn't think nothing of it. I wasn't desiring anything. I just still was in my place. Like, I started back doing hair. I used to be a hairstylist, so I started back working at the salon. I'm trying to figure life out. I'm dealing with what's going on in my personal life with my family, financially, you know, still really got a lot of brokenness and wounds and deep wounds and hurt and, you know, all the things, and still trying to recover from the, you know, broken relationships that I was, you know, recently just getting out of. So it was like I really didn't have no mind to think like, or to care like really that I didn't hear from him, or, you know, nothing had happened until, like I said, the one day he asked me to come see him. And the funny thing is, I want to say this. When you have that unction that tell you to don't do it, listen to that. Because the day he asked me to come see him, I just was pulling in my driveway. And I was tired, and I hadn't seen my children all day because I used to work long hours at the salon. And I could see my children through the window, through the kitchen window. It looked like they was in the kitchen trying to probably fix something to eat or whatever they were doing. And I'm looking at them, and he like, can I come see him? And where he was on another side of town, the same side of town I just had came from from where I worked at the hair salon. So part of me was just kind of like, don't do it. I'm gonna be real honest. Something was like, don't do it. But there was such a curiosity. It was such a curiosity in me that I ignored that unction and I went to see him. And that was the beginning. That was the beginning. Went to see him. Was nervous as all get out. Because again, we hadn't seen each other. You're talking about 18 years literally. And so go see him. And he was still fine. See, that used to be my weak spot, you know, just a fine brother, okay? He was still fine, you know. He introduced me to his aunt or whatever. We talk, and then, you know, we go to his house and we just chill. Nothing happened. Like, we don't do anything. We just talk and chill, you know, just kind of just trying to catch up, you know, because again, we hadn't talked. We hadn't seen each other in 18 years. And so it really started off pretty cool. I'll say that. Things started off cool, you know. He started off cool. He started off, now it was red flags from the beginning. He was inconsistent from the beginning. He was not a man of his word from the beginning. We have to pay attention. I know as women, we always want to get benefit of the doubt, right? We think, oh, I feel like I'm just doing too much. I don't want to be too hard. I mean, it ain't that serious. Like, you know, maybe he forgot, you know, we like to make excuses. We always want to see the good, right? We just want to believe in the potential. What kept me in a relationship that nearly took my life, I had 2 near-death experiences, that nearly destroyed every ounce of me. I held on to potential, right? I held on to the potential of what he could be. And so, like I said, he was sweet. He was kind. He was loving. He was a protector. Something had happened in my life where someone had broken into my home, and he was there, you know, like not there when it happened, but like there for me when I let him know what went on, like to protect me. He was ready to try to go find the people, like, you know, whatever, you know. And he just had this seemingly sweet, almost boyish type of, you know, demeanor. And on top of all those things, right, like he was familiar. He was someone I had dated before. He was sweet. He was loving. You know, we would talk for hours. You know, we could have a good conversation. He was working at a church. He was volunteering, doing the food pantry. He would personally deliver the food pantry packages to individuals who, like, maybe they were disabled or didn't have a car or whatever. He was helping people, you know, doing Toys for Tots. He was helping people, you know, sign up to get help with their electricity and their gas. Like, he was doing all this stuff, like, for the community. He was, you know, doing stuff. He was involved in his daughter's life. You know, he really was trying to help, you know, be there with his daughter and, you know, raise her and spend time with her. And, you know, it was just all of these things. And it was like, wow, okay. You know, he was just kind of like checking off some of the boxes, even though the red flags were there nonetheless. Like I said, that he was still showing signs that he still was not, you know, mature, truly, like emotionally and available emotionally, that he didn't have good character, that he wasn't a man of integrity, that he didn't have good morals. And so because I chose to overlook those things, because I was so smitten by this point, you know, I was just so smitten because, you know, he would often come over. We would hang out. We would spend time. You know, like I said, he had good conversation. We could talk. And he was being, like, honest and confiding and telling me things about his life and things that had happened in the span of time that we had not been in communication and not, you know, seeing each other and stuff. So I felt kind of good about it. You know, I let him know, like, yo, brother, we not doing no, you know what I'm saying? The shop is shut down. I'm celibate, you know, I'm abstinent. And at first he was kind of like, huh? You know, not really clear on what that was. And once I explained it to him, he was like, okay. And so he would make it a point not to stay over too late or not to touch me or do anything inappropriate. And I mean, so it seemed like, it was like, wow, you know, this, like, it was like he was just wooing me, you know. He was just drawing me in. He would just do the sweetest things. Like, he would just do the sweetest things. He would say the sweetest things, you know. He would just, you know, every time I, like, would be frustrated because, again, he wasn't always a man of his word. So there were times he would say that he was coming and he would not come. There were times that he would tell me he was going to do something, or he was going to call me and he didn't. And when I would call him, he wouldn't answer the phone. So, you know, I was dealing with stuff like that. But nonetheless, when he would come, right, it was like he came with all this charisma. You know, he came with all this, you know, able, you know, just reasons, and it's, you know, great reasons of, you know, what happened, and, you know, trying to, you know, get my mind off of me being upset, you know, and all of that. So it was like I would allow that to work, right? I don't know, sis, can any of y'all relate to knowing, like, bro, like, what's the problem? Like, why you don't answer the phone? You know, or why you can't keep your word? Why you telling me you go? Please forgive me, y'all. It's late. Why you gonna tell me you gonna do something and you don't do it? Like, that's not cool. Da, 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 da. But still, you know, he was still trying to be there for me. You know, my children and stuff. So it's hard. You know, it was hard because I really wanted him. I really wanted to be with him. I really wanted it to work, and I didn't want to do anything that would upset him. See, so that's another thing, that when you're unhealed, right, the unhealed version of you is a people pleaser, right? You a people pleaser, you're compromised, you always want to blame self, you know, you want to take the blame for stuff that you really not, you know, it's not your fault, right, that you don't own. You carry burdens that don't belong to you, right? And sometimes it's because the manipulator, or, you know, the person who's a narcissistic, or they're a sociopath, or, you know, they're demonized. Oftentimes they are trying to manipulate and twist things around to make you think you're the problem. And so I dealt with all of that. And so, you know, again, it was rocky, but it was decent in the beginning, you know. And so I still felt confident that this was something that I wanted to be in, even though I had, again, number one, pay attention to the red flags. Regardless of how small it is, a red flag is a red flag. You cannot paint a red flag pink, purple, yellow, white. It's red, okay? It's red. If a person don't have integrity, that's a red flag. If a person do not have character, if they do not keep their word, that's a red flag. If a person that you talking to, y'all supposed to be talking or in a relationship, but they can't never answer their phone when you call, that's a red flag, right? And so, because I just was wanting to be with somebody, I was willing to take, even if it was, you know, like a piece, right? Even if I didn't get the whole or the fullness of what I wanted in a relationship or a man, I was so willing to take just a piece or a part, just to have something, just to have someone. And so I just found myself, you know, being in this space of desiring something so much that I was willing to look past the red flags, and I was willing to compromise. I was willing to compromise, and I began to want to just do things to try to make him just really see that I really liked him and really wanted to be with him, and hoping that he would in turn, you know, begin to reciprocate, you know, the same actions or feelings. And so it didn't work, by the way. Okay, it didn't work. And, you know, the fact that I was so unhealed, you know, there were things that he said to me in the very beginning that I should have just respected and I should have walked away, and I did not. I remember us having a conversation and him telling me that he didn't want to be in a relationship because he was too damaged. Because he himself had just got out of a broken relationship around the same time I broke up with Toxic X number 2 in November of 2016. I think he had ended his relationship in October of 2016. So around the same time we were getting out of relationships, and he began to confide in me and let me know all of the things that his ex did to him in their relationship. And so, you know, I was just like, wow, you know, I was so shocked because the things that he told me that she did to him, and the things he dealt with, and how he continued to take her back and all this stuff, she caused a lot of damage because, you know, she was the first woman that he, I guess, got in a relationship with when he got out of jail in 2015. And so he just didn't want to, I guess, have to date someone else or get to know someone else. So he kept putting up, you know, with what she was doing. And, you know, it just created a lot of, just like it do for us women, men get hurt too. And so I really should have I should have listened, but I didn't. I was so broken that I did not listen, nor did I hear what he was saying. That was him trying to tell me. But in the same breath, that's what his words and actions never aligned. Because even though he told me he didn't want to be in a relationship, he continued to have behaviors and engage with me as we were in a relationship. And so it's like it was so inconsistent that even though I knew that I didn't hear him and I didn't want to hear him, it was hard for me to, when you're always around, when you're always here, you always telling me you love me, you always, you know, doing things and trying to, you know, act as if we're in a relationship. So it just was, it didn't make any sense, but I didn't care because I wanted the relationship, right? And so, you know, I got into another entanglement, another toxic relationship. But like I said, this one was the grand finale because there were so many things that came out. Oh my gosh. After it was like, it was too late. I was so deep in and I had no idea what I was getting myself into. None. And, you know, it's so important to, when you break up and get out of a relationship, whether it's toxic or not, especially if it's toxic, you need to take time to heal. You need to seek counseling or therapy if it's that serious, or at least take some one-on-one time with just you and the Lord and allow him to restore your soul. In Psalms 23:3, David said, the Lord restores my soul. That lets us know your soul can need restoration. It can be broken. It can be fragmented. It can be damaged. And so you need to take time to heal, to become whole, to get over the things that you went through, to get over the last person. The way you get over a relationship is getting in another one. It's not true. All you're doing is just compounding that toxicity on top of each other. God desires for us to be whole and to be healed, right? He desires for us to have a healthy, godly relationship, but we cannot do that if we do not take the time to invest in our inner healing and in our wholeness and in our relationship with him first and foremost. Because that was one of the biggest things that I could say in these times that I was getting into these relationships, that I had I was saved, but I didn't have a relationship with God. Like, I really wasn't living safe for real. I was living lukewarm. I was still sinning. I was still fornicating. I was still doing a lot of things that we don't do as a believer, as a Christ follower, because I really didn't have that relationship. So that's what also allowed me to ignore red flags and to continue to go forward in this relationship when clearly it wasn't what God had for me. But because I wasn't seeking God, because I wasn't acknowledging God, the Bible tells us that we are to acknowledge God in all our ways, that we are to seek ye the kingdom first. And because I wasn't doing that, I was just making my own choice because I wasn't even I wasn't familiar, right? I wasn't accustomed to really being in relationship with God, meaning I'm talking with him, I'm running things past him, I'm praying, I'm seeking him first, right? I wasn't doing that. So I was just going off my emotions and my feelings. And that is the worst thing you can do, because your emotions and feelings, they change, they lie. But when you're broken, you don't know that. And so what ended up happening is two broken people end up coming together, and we thought we could make something beautiful. And we just made something so horrible, right? And not to say we didn't have some beautiful moments, but overall, it was just a disaster. It was a disaster. And it didn't just affect me, it affected even my children. And that's another thing, like, sis, if you got children, be mindful of who you date, who you entertain, who you bring around. Listen, seek God. Wait on the Lord, right? Let him lead you. Let him heal you and make you whole, so you don't not only bring harm to you, but your children. So now they're involved. And then eventually I compromise and I give in, and we begin to have sex. And so fornication. So again, I'm at my about 31 minutes, so I'm going to leave it off here. But just kind of giving more insight and detail on how I got into these places and spaces, because it's not just a one choice or one act or one movement. It's a series of choices, right? It's a series of moving toward, right? And I wish I just would have had the clarity and the wisdom to just walk away, especially before it got too deep. And I had every opportunity to. Things came up where we did stop talking. Things came up in the beginning where, we were, beefing or whatever. And I could have walked away and stayed walking away. And I would have been so blessed for it, but I didn't take it. Like the Bible tells us that we have not been tempted beyond what's common to man. But even in the face of temptation, God, he shall provide. He will provide a way of escape. He gave me, not only where there were flags, but I had ways of escape. And I didn't take it because my heart wanted what it wanted, even if what it wanted was hurting me. And so I hope you guys are really getting something from this. Understand that it is not God's heart for us to be in a relationship with someone who is doing damage, causing harm, right? Tearing down, right? That's not God. And so I pray my testimony is really helping someone to see, like, wait a minute. Because I know the biggest lie that I believed throughout that time, the whole relationship, the time I was in the relationship with him, was somehow that this was God. Somehow I reasoned that this was God. And I'm gonna get into some things, y'all. And that it was the will of God for me to go through all this. And at some point, God was going to change him. And it was going to all work out. And we was going to be happy ever after. I will see you guys. Look, I'm like, I can't even go there. The video is where it needs to be. But I will see you guys on the next video to talk about part 3. And kind of really how I got thrusted into a relationship from the pit of hell. Amen. So I pray that this is blessing you. I pray that this is helping you. If it is, like, comment, subscribe. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.